Hi there. In this tutorial, I will show you how you can create your own resume in Power BI. No templates or external things there, all in Power BI. And at the end, you will have your own resume there. And additionally, I will also show you how you can dynamically change the colors of your resume so you can try different color options there. So let's get started. I'm going to show you how you can build this yourself because this is all built in Power BI and I already opened the selection pane at the right side. And if you want, I have the download of this file available on my website and the link is in the description. So you can download it and open it and actually click along if you like. If you can't find the selection pane because it's not on the right side here, go to View and make sure it's opened here. And in the selection pane, I actually see the layer order and I made a lot of groups for everything I use in this report in my resume. And I'm going to hide almost everything for you so you actually see what I did here. Let's go through this step by step. The first thing I did is the background because I need this canvas. I need my resume to have a nice background. So how did I do that? My background consists of 3 shapes and an image. But first, let me open the format pane and show you the canvas settings. I have not the 16 by 9 shape of the canvas, but custom, and it's this 1032 pixel by 723 pixel, which is this nice format that you could also save as PDF and it would be one page. And the background, this is not white, but it's this hex code here. And you need to make sure when you select this that transparency is always on 100 standard. You need to put it on 0 to actually see the background. So that's what I did first. I created this shape of the canvas that I want and I gave it the background that it needed. So what I did next was I added some shapes. And for example, this is just a rectangle shape that you can find when you go to Insert Shapes Rectangle in a certain color again. And then I added another shape. This is also a shape and the shape for the background of my image. And of course the image. The image you can insert going to Insert Image and inserting it. And then I just rearranged everything until it fit like what I wanted. And then I grouped it. I group everything because especially in this example, I use lots of shapes, lots of text boxes, lots of elements. I want to have some logical groups, not only for me, but also if I provide it to someone else, they should be able to see what I've done. So the next thing I added was the contact information. And this is really just a text box and a shape. The shape, that's important to note, it's a line, but if I click on shape style, I don't have any fill there. I only have a border color that I want to use. And the text box is really just your basic text box that you get when you click on insert and text box. And then I wanted these arrows. Now, if you click on shapes, you have this first arrow, this one, then you have a second one, which is actually this one. If you add the first one, like this, and you could, of course, select another one, but you can also just copy it and then say, I want this to be a chevron arrow. Just move it around and you get this effect. So that's super easy, just 2 arrows. And I don't put a text box on top of that, but if you click on a shape, you have the option to say text. I want text to be on and I can put in text here. And you can, of course, change the size. And in this example, I wanted it to be outlined on the left, but I also added some padding because it otherwise really starts at the left here. So I add like 10 and this looks much better. So that's what I did here, just adding these arrows and again, grouping them. So there we have the contact arrows. And now I want education. And for education, I did basically the same as for contact. This is a text field and this is a shape, the line. And if we open this, then I have 2 text boxes because in text boxes you can edit each line. So in this case, I said the first row I wanted to be bold, and the second one I don't want it to be bold. And you can do that even in a text box. And then I have two shapes. These are just ovals, and you can also put in some text there, and I put in 1 and 2. So you see, you don't need to import any images, just use the shapes Power BI is offering you. Then I want my certifications in there, and this is a text box. You could also put them in a table and load them into your data and put in a matrix and then switch rows and columns, and then it would be nicely under each other there. And then the last thing on the left side is languages. Languages, again, a text box and line shape. And what's different here is that I actually use some Power BI visual here. Well, these are two clustered bar charts over each other. Why? I wanted the background to be white and always going up to 100%. And I wanted the visual at the front to have a different color, and in this case, green. And yes, you could do that with, for example, a stacked bar chart, or you could use a clustered bar chart and then choose for overlay, which is possible in Power BI. But when you're doing that, you can't dynamically change the colors. And if we click on this, I can show you what I did here. I used conditional formatting to determine the color. And now at this moment it's green. If we go back to my example here, you see it just turned yellow. I want this to dynamically change colors, and I can't do that with an overlap, because there you can't determine these colors dynamically. And so I need to work with this workaround where I put two visuals on top of each other. If you just would use one color in your resume, I show you what you could do. For example, you could go to language, and then you choose the language, the proficiency, and 100%. And then I could choose a clustered bar chart where we have these languages there. Let's make this a little smaller. And what you could do is you could go to bars, to the format pane bars, layout, and then overlap. Space between series like 100, and you see here you have this overlap. And now you could say, I want the 100% to be white, and I want the percentage of the proficiency, for example, green. And if I remove the background now and I put this here, I could get the same effect. So this overlap works fine, but then you can't use conditional formatting. And I want to use conditional formatting. Like I showed you before, I want to change the colors afterwards of this resume. So I have to use this workaround at the moment. And if you wonder, where does this language information come from? I loaded the information into Power BI before. So now I want to do something more. I want to add some sections here, because now I want to add the text to my resume. So what am I going to do is I add like 3 arrows, and this again are just shapes. For example, current position, past experience, and portfolio. And now I want to add some information. The header in this case is again just a text box, because you can format every row or everything that you mark here. You can format. So I add like the name, the current position, and just some quick introduction here. And then I want to start something about the current position. So I again add a text box. I want to add a radar chart, and radar charts are not like in these core visuals. So you need to go to the store. And if you wonder where this information comes from, I added the table before, and where I put some things that I want to show and a certain score, and then this is translated to the radar chart. So that's really easy. Then we go to past experiences, and I want to show you something there. Here I used kind of a heat map, but this is actually a matrix visual. Like if I click on this, you can see it on the right side. This is a matrix. And what I did is I put here like some jobs in there and the years that I worked there. But instead of values here, I just look up, did I work at that job at that time? And then there should be number or not. If I didn't work there, there's no number. And then I use conditional formatting by doing right click, conditional formatting background color. And again, and I do the same for the font color. And I use like this dynamic colors from a table, but you could also just say rule based. If it is 1, make it blue, something like that. And then it will color. So this is actually using a matrix visual and transforming it to a heat map. And then of course I want some information. So I go to past experiences. And this is actually also a matrix where I put some symbols as rows. And I did double click on the name here on the right and just space. So it's empty. And here I just wrote down my experience, achievements. And if you go to the data, you see I just put it in a table there. So that's really easy. And you see we already used some bar chart. We used the radar chart. We used matrix to create a heat map. We used the matrix, well, as a matrix. And we used all kinds of shapes and grouped them to make this all really easy to look at. And then of course, I also have a portfolio because I create reports for a living. And I show you here where I show 2 of my reports. And if you wonder, how do I do that? I also put them in a table that I loaded into the report here. And you see it's only the URL because I put it somewhere also on my website. And what I did here is I put the URL just in a matrix. I love matrix visuals. You can do a lot with them. And what I did is I made sure that when I go to data and URL, that the data category is image URL. Because if you do that, Power BI will actually show the image if you make that transformation there. There you have your resume. It's really, I don't want to say it doesn't take a lot of time because rearranging everything, using the shapes that you want to use, of course that takes time. But creating a normal resume also takes time because this is what you show other people. This is how you sell yourself. This is how you sell like your skill set. Of course, there should be some time involved in there. Something else I want to show you, because now I colored everything in this screen, but maybe you want to try different colors. Maybe you don't know yet which color scheme you want to use, and you can quite easily make this really flexible. I will show you these last elements. I always use like a color table, and a color table is really just a table that I enter with, if you go here, enter data. And what do I have here? 3 colors. You could put in more and some hex codes. And these hex codes you can find online. It's really easy. You have these color pickers that you can use. But what I do is I put all these hex codes in a table and then I put them in like a slicer. I go to buttons, default, fill. I want the fill to be based on the field value, the first color. I clicked on this conditional formatting sign. So all my buttons get this color. And what I do then is every element that I want to change color, I go to shape style, fill, and instead of choosing a color, I choose like this FX button. I say format style field value based on the first color. This makes it also really easy for you if you don't know yet, but you don't want to color all these shapes all the time again, because we used quite some shapes. If I look at this, there's a lot going on. So using this color table will make your life really easy in there. So I hope this helped. I also wrote an article about it. I also wrote an article about dynamically changing colors. I will put all the resources in the description. Make sure to have a look. Let me know if this works for you. And of course, you can download the file. And I'm really curious about how your resume would look like.